Prasaya Bhutale Shrimati Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gola Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prasayate Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gola Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prasayate Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana Radha Krishna Narayana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana Narayana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasudeva Bhakta-vrinda Jaya Jaya Goranga Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Goranga Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Puranga Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Puranga Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, 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 Madana Mohana. Gopala Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gauranga 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 Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Namaste.
Today we'll continue our study program, but now we will read the life of Lord Chaitanya. At the time he came here 500 years ago, and this is narrated by His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his disciple Gorakishore Das Babaji, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, and our dearmost spiritual master, our life and soul, His Divine Grace Jagad Guru Siddhaswarupananda Prabhupada, the dearmost disciple of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, who is the loving servant of Lord Chaitanya. So I'll read this narrative of the life of Lord Chaitanya so we can have a clear view of what we're doing, whom we're following, and to enter that world that is very sweet, the nectar of devotion, through the life of Lord Chaitanya, who is Radha and Krishna combined. Lord Chaitanya coming to this world. So, He is revealed to us by someone who knows Him, who is His confidential loving servant. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born in Mayapur in the town of Nadja, just after the sunset on the evening of the 23rd Palgun, 1407, sa Kabda, answering to the 18th February 1486 of the Christian era. The moon was eclipsed at the time of his birth, and the people of Nadja were then engaged, as is usual on such occasion, in bathing in the Bhagirati with loud cheers of Haribol. His father Jagannath Mishra was a poor Brahmin of the Vedic order, and his mother Sachidevi was a model good woman. Both descended from Brahmin stocks, originally residing in Sylhet. Mahaprabhu was a beautiful child, and the ladies of the town came to see him with presents. His mother and father, Pandit Nilambar Chakrabarti, a renowned astrologer, foretold that the child would be a great personage in time, and he therefore gave him the name Bisbambar. The ladies of the neighborhood styled him Gaur Hari on account of his golden complexion, and his mother called him Nimai on account of the neem tree near which he was born. Beautiful as the lad was, everyone heartily loved to see him every day. As he grew up, he became a whimsical and frolicsome lad. After his 5th year, he was admitted into a school where he picked up Bengali in a very short time. Most of his contemporary biographers have mentioned certain anecdotes regarding Chaitanya, which are simply records of his early miracles. It is said that when he was an infant in his mother's arm, he wept continually. And when the neighboring ladies and his mother cried Haribol, he used to stop. Thus, there was a continuation of the utterance of Haribol in the house, foreshowing the future mission of the hero. It has also been stated that when his mother once gave him sweetmeats to eat, he ate clay instead of the food. His mother asking for the reason, he stated that at every sweetmeat was nothing but a clay transformed. He could eat clay as well. His mother, who was the consort of a pandit, explained that every article in a special state was adapted to a special use. Earth, while in the state of a jug, could be used as a water pot, but in the state of a brick, such use was not possible. Clay, therefore, in the form of sweetmeats, was usable as food, and not clay in its other states. The lad was convinced and admitted his stupidity in eating clay, and agreed to avoid the mistake in the future. Another miraculous act has been related. It is said that a Brahmin on pilgrimage became a guest in his house and cooked his food and read His grace with meditation on Krishna. In the meantime, the lad came and ate up the cooked rice. The Brahmin, astonished at the lad's act, cooked again at the request of Jagannath Mishra. The lad ate up the cooked rice while the Brahmin was offering the rice to Krishna with meditation. The Brahmin was persuaded to cook for a third time. This time, all the inmates of the house had fallen asleep, and the lad showed himself as Krishna to the traveler and blessed him. The Brahmin was then lost in ecstasy at the appearance of the object of his worship. It has also been stated that the two thieves stole away the lad from his father's door with a view to purloin his jewels and gave him sweetmeats on the way. The lad exercised his illusory energy and deceived the thieves back towards his own house. The thieves, for fear of detection, left the boy there and fled. Another miraculous act has been described of the lads demanding and getting from Hiranya and Jagadisha all the offerings they had collected for worshipping Krishna on the day of Ekadashi. When only 4 years of age, he sat on a rejected cooking pots, which were considered unholy by his mother. He explained to his mother that there was no question of holiness and unholiness as regard earthen pots thrown away after the cooking was over. These anecdotes relate to the tender age up to the 5th year. In his 8th year, he was admitted in the toll of Gangadas Pandit in Ganganagar, close by the village of Mayapur. In 2 years, he became very well read in Sanskrit grammar and rhetoric. His reading after that were that of nature of self-study in his own house, where he had found all important books belonging to his father, who was a Pandit himself. It appears that he read the Srimati in his own study and the Niyaya also, in competition with his friends who were then studying under the celebrated Pandit Raghunath Sri Romani. Now, after the 10th year of age, Chaitanya became a passable scholar in grammar, rhetoric, and Sri Riti and the Niyaya. It was after this that his elder brother Bishbarup left his house and accepted the ashram status of a sannyasi, ascetic. Chaitanya, though a very young boy, consoled his parents, saying that he would serve them. He would serve them with a view to please God. Just after that, his father left the world. His mother was exceedingly sorry, and Mahaprabhu, with his usual contented appearance, consoled his widowed mother. It was at the age of 14 or 15 that Mahaprabhu was married to Lakshmi Devi, the daughter of Balaba Acharya, also of Nadia. He was at this age considered one of the best scholars of Nadia, the renowned seat of Niyaya philosophy and Sanskrit learning. Not to speak of the Smarta Pandits, where the Naiyayiks were all afraid of confronting him in literary discussion. Being a married man, he went to eastern Bengal on the banks of Padma for acquirement of wealth. There he displayed his learning and obtained a good sum of money. It was at this time that he preached Vaishnavism at intervals. After teaching him the principle of Vaishnavism, he ordered Tapan Misra to go and live in Benares during his residence in Bengal. His wife Lakshmi Devi left this world from the effects of snake bite. On returning home, he found his mother in a mourning state. He consoled her mother with a lecture on the uncertainty of human affairs. It was at his mother's request that he married Vishnu Priya, the daughter of Raj Pandit Sanatan Misra. His comrades joined him on his return from Prabhas or sojourn. He was now so renowned that he was considered to be the best of the Pandit. In Nadia, Keshab Misra of Kashmir, who had called himself the great Digbijai, came to Nadia with a view to discuss with the Pandits of that place. After a so-called conquering Pandit, the tall professor of Nadia left their town on pretense of invitation. And Keshab met Mahaprabhu at the Baronkonagat in Mayapur. And after a very short discussion with him, he got defeated by the boy, and mortification obliged him to decamp. Nimai Pandit was now the most important Pandit of his times. It was at this age of 16 or 17 that he traveled to Gaya with a host of students, and there took his spiritual initiation from Iswara Puri, a Vaishnava sannyasi and a disciple of the renowned Madhavendra Puri. Upon his return to Nadia, Nimai Pandit turned religious preacher, and his religious nature became so strongly represented that Advaita Srivas and others who had before the birth of Lord Chaitanya already accepted the Vaishnava faith were astonished at the change of this young man, at the change in the young man. He was then no more a contending na iya-iyaka or a wrangling smarta and a criticizing rhetorician. He swooned at the name of Krishna and behaved as an inspired man under the influence of his religious sentiment. It has been described by Murari Gupta, an eyewitness, that he showed his heavenly powers in the house of Srivas Pandit, in the presence of hundreds of his followers who were mostly well-read scholars. It was at this time he opened a nocturnal school of kirtan in the compound of Srivas Pandit. With his sincere followers, there he preached, there he sang, there he danced, and there he expressed all sorts of religious feelings. Nityananda Prabhu was then a preacher of Vaishnavism, and who had then completed his travels all over India. Excuse me. Joined him by that time, in fact, a host of Pandit preachers of Vaishnavism, all sincere at heart, came and joined him from different parts of Bengal. Nadia now became a regular seat of a host of Vaishnava acharyas, saintly teachers whose mission it was to spiritualize mankind with the highest influence of Vaishnava devotional creed. The very first mandate that he issued to Prabhu Nityananda and Haridas, his close associate, was this: "Go, friends, go through streets of the town, meet every man at the door and ask him to sing the names of Hari with a holy life, and then come and report to me every evening the result of your preaching." Thus ordered, the two preachers went on and met Jagad and Madai, the two most abominable characters. They insulted the preachers on hearing Mahaprabhu's mandate, but were soon converted by the influence of bhakti inculcated by their Lord. The people of Nadia were now surprised. They said, "Nimai Pandit is not only a gigantic genius, but is certainly a missionary from God Almighty." From this time to his 23rd year, Mahaprabhu preached his principles not only in Nadia, but in all important towns and villages around his city. In the house of his followers, he showed miracles, taught the esoteric principle of bhakti, and sang his sankirtan with other bhaktas, or devotees. His followers of the town of Nadia commenced to sing the holy name of Hari in the streets and bazaars. He created a sensation and roused different feelings in different quarters. The Bhaktas were highly pleased. The Smarta case-conscious Brahmins became jealous of Nimai Pandit's success and complained to Chand Kasi against the character of Chaitanya as an Hindu. The Kasi came to Srivas Pandit's house and broke a mirdanga, drum used in Sankirtan. There and declared that unless Nimai Pandit ceased to make noise about his queer religion, he should be obliged to enforce Mohammedanism on him and his followers. This was brought to Mahaprabhu's notice. He ordered the town people to appear in the evening, each with a torch in his hand. This they did, and Nimai marched out with his Sankirtan divided into 14 groups. And on his arrival at the Kasi's house, he held a long conversation with the Kasi, and in the end communicated into his heart his Vaishnava influence by touching his body. The Kasi then wept and admitted that he had felt a keen spiritual influence which has cleared up his doubts and produced in him a religious sentiment which gave him the highest ecstasy. The Kasi then joined the Sankirtan party. The world was astonished at the spiritual power of the great Lord, and hundreds of heretics converted, joining the banner of Bisbambar after the affair. Chaitanya heard with silence what the great Sarvabhauma uttered with gravity for 7 days, and at the end of which the latter said, Krishna Chaitanya, I think you do not understand the Vedanta, as you do not say anything after hearing my recitation and explanation. The reply of Chaitanya was that he understood the sutras very well, but he could not make out what Shankaracharya meant by his commentaries. Astonished at this, Sarvabhauma said, How is it that you understand the meaning of the sutras and do not understand the commentaries which explain the sutras as well? If you understand the sutras, please let me have your interpretation. Mahaprabhu thereupon explained all the sutras in his own way without touching the pantheistic commentary of Shankaracharya, of Shankar. The keen understanding of Sarvabhauma saw the truth, beauty, and harmony of the arguments in the explanation given by Chaitanya, and obliged him to utter that it was the first time that he had found one who could explain Brahma Sutras in such a simple manner. He admitted also that the commentaries of Shankar never gave such natural explanation of Vedanta Sutras as he had obtained from Mahaprabhu. Then he submitted himself as an advocate and follower. In a few days, Sarvabhauma turned out as one of the best Vaishnavas of the time. Report ran out, and the whole of Orissa sang the praise of Krishna Chaitanya, and hundreds came to see him and became his followers. In the meantime, Mahaprabhu thought of visiting southern India, and he started with one Krishnadas Brahmin for the journey. His biographers have given us a detail of that journey. He first went to Kurmashetra, where he did a miracle by curing a leper named Vasudev. He met Ramananda Roy, the governor of Vijayanagar, on the banks of Godavari, and had a philosophical conversation with him on the subject of Prema Bhakti, loving devotion. He worked another miracle by touching, making them immediately disappear. The 7 tall trees, the which Ramachandra, the son of Dasarat, had shot his arrow and killed the great Baliraj. He preached Vaishnavism and Nam Sankirtan, chanting of the holy names of God throughout the journey. At Rangashetra, he stayed for 4 months in the house of one Venkata Bhatta in order to spend the rainy season. There he converted the whole family of Venkata from Ramanuji Vaishnavism into Krishna Bhakta. Along with the son of Venkata, a boy of 10 named Gopal, who afterwards came to Vrindavan and became one of the 6 Goswamis or prophets serving under the leader of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Trained up in Sanskrit by his uncle Prabodhananda Saraswati, Gopal wrote books on Vaishnavism. Chaitanya visited numerous places. Places in southern India as far as Cape Comorin and returned to Puri in 2 years by Pandevpur on the Bhima. In the latter place, he spiritualized one Tukaram, excuse me, who became from that time a religious preacher himself. This fact has been admitted in his Abhangas, which has been collected in volume by Mr. Satyendra Nath Tagore of the Bombay Civil Service. During his journey, he had discussion with the Buddhists, the Jains, and the Mayavadis. In several places, all converted his opponents to Vaishnavism, the worship of God as a person. Upon his return to Puri, Raja Prataparudra Dev and several Pandit Brahmins joined the banners of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was now 27 years of age, and on his 28th year, he went to Bengal as far as Gaud, Malda. He then picked up 2 great personages, namely Rupa and Sanatan. Although descended from the lines of Karanatic Brahmins, these 2 brothers turned out demi-Muslim by their continual contact with Hussein Shah and then the Emperor of Gaud. Their names had been changed by the Emperor into the Birkash and Sakir Malik. And their master loved them heartily as they were both learned in Persian, Arabic, and Sanskrit, and were loyal servants of the state. The 2 gentlemen had found no way, came back as regular Hindus, and had written to Mahaprabhu while he was in Puri for spiritual help. Mahaprabhu had written in reply that he would come to them and extricate them out of their spiritual difficulties. Now that they had come to God, both the brothers appeared before him with their long-standing prayers. Mahaprabhu ordered them to go to Vrindavan and meet him there, and came down to Prayag, Allahabad, converting a large number of Mohammedans to Vaishnavism by argument from the Quran. The descendants of these converts are still known as Patan Vaishnavas. Rupa Goswami met him at Allahabad, and Chaitanya trained him up in spirituality in 10 days and directed him to go to Vrindavan on missions. His first mission was to write theological works explaining scientifically pure bhakti and prema, devotional service and love of God, the nectar of devotion. The second mission was to revive places where Krishna Chandra had in the end of Dwarpa Yuga, the previous age, exhibited his lila or pastimes for the benefit of the religious world. Rupa Goswami left Allahabad for Vrindavan, and Mahaprabhu came down to Benares. There he put up in the house of Chandrasekhar and accepted his daily bhiksha meal in the house of Tapan Misra. Here it was Sanatan Goswami joined him and took instruction for 2 months in spiritual matters. Just finish one page. The biographers, especially Krishnadas Kaviraj, have given us details of Chaitanya's teachings to Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Krishnadas Kaviraj, and contemporary writers, but he gathered information from the Goswamis themselves, the direct disciples of Mahaprabhu. Jiva Goswami, who was the nephew of Sanatan and Rupa, and who has left us his invaluable work, the Sad Sandarbha, has philosophized on the precepts of his great leader, of his great leader. We have gathered and summarized the precepts of Chaitanya from the books of those great writers. While at Benares, Chaitanya had an interview with a learned sannyasi of the town in the house of Marhata Brahmin, who had invited all the sannyasis for an entertainment. At this interview, Chaitanya showed a miracle which attracted all the sannyasis to him. Then ensued reciprocal conversation. The sannyasis were headed by their most learned leader, Prakasananda Sarasvati. After a short controversy, they submitted to Mahaprabhu and admitted that they had been misled by the commentaries of Shankaracharya. It was impossible even for learned scholars to oppose Chaitanya for a long time, as there was some spell in him which touched their heart and made them weep for their spiritual improvements. The sannyasis of Benares soon fell at the feet of Chaitanya and asked for his grace, Kripa. Chaitanya then preached pure bhakti and installed in their hearts spiritual love for Krishna, which obliged them to give up sectarian feelings. The whole of Benares, on his wonderful conversation of the sannyasis, turned Vaishnava, and they made a manner Sankirtan with their new Lord. They made a master Sankirtan of their new Lord. After sending Sanatan to Vrindavan, Mahaprabhu went to Puri again. By the jungles with his comrade Balabhadra. Balabhadra reported that that Mahaprabhu had shown a good many miracles on his way to Puri, such as making tigers, elephants dance on hearing the name of Krishna. From this time, that it is from his 31st year, Mahaprabhu continually lived in Puri in the house of Kashi Mishra until his disappearance in his 48th year at the time of the Sankirtan in the temple of Tota Gopinath. During these 18 years of his life was one of settled love and piety. He was surrounded by numerous followers, all of whom were of the highest order of the Vaishnavas. Excuse me. And distinguished from the common people by their purest character and learning, firm religious principles and spiritual love for Radha and Krishna. Swarup Damodar, who had been known by the name of Purushottamatcharya, while Mahaprabhu was in Nadia, joined him from Benares and accepted his service as his secretary. No production of any poet or philosopher could be laid before Mahaprabhu unless Swarup had passed it as pure and useful. Rai Ramananda was his second mate. Both he and Swarup sang while Mahaprabhu expressed his sentiment on certain points of worship. Paramananda Puri was his minister in the matters of religion. There are hundreds and anecdotes described by his biographers, which we do not think it meets here to reproduce. Mahaprabhu slept short. His sentiment carried him further and further in the firmament of spirituality every day and night. And all his admirers and followers watched him throughout. He worshipped, communicated with his missionaries at Vrindavan, and he conversed with those religious men who newly came to visit him. He sang and danced and took no care of himself, and oftentimes lost himself in religious beatitude. All who came to him believed him as the all-beautiful appearing in the netherworld for the benefit of mankind. He loved his mother all along and sent her Mahaprasad, spiritual foods. Now then, with those who went to Naja, he was the most amiable in nature. Humility was personified in him. His sweet appearance gave cheer to all who came in contact with him. He appointed Prabhu Nityananda as the missionary in charge of Bengal. He dispatched 6 disciples, the Goswamis, to Vrindavan to preach love in the upcountry. He punished all his disciples who deviated from the holy life. This he markedly did in the case of Junior Haridas. He never lacked in giving proper instruction in life to those who solicited them. This will be seen in his teachings to Raghunath Das Goswami. His treatment of Haridas Sr. shows how he loved spiritual men and how he defied caste distinction in the case of spiritual brotherhood. So this is the narrative of the life of Lord Chaitanya, and most of the discussion here is discussed in the teachings in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And in our studies, we will be reading the conversation with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Prakashananda in our future studies. So we can have a clear, really complete view, understanding of the discussion and its culmination or effect when Lord Chaitanya discussed the Vaishnavism and eternal devotional activities of the Transcendental Lord and His devotees. Thank you very much. Haribol Namaste. Let's chant and follow the example of Lord Chaitanya, His command. Chant the holy names and pass on the holy names. Haribol Namaste.
Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga. Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev.